You've heard me talk about the benefits of mulch for years and years, how piling up arborist tree trimmings for mulch can improve your soil. You have a healthier garden. We're talking with Brad Gay. He owns JB's Power Equipment in Davis, California. What are the benefits of owning your own chipper shredder?
The big thing, if you're into gardening or if you're just starting out in gardening or whatever level in gardening you're at, the chipper shredder is going to give you a means of changing the soil quality of your garden. And you're going to be able to get rid of stuff that you would maybe put in a container the city or county would pick up, or you would have to haul off. And you can maintain your yard and get rid of your trimmings, your limbs that have fallen down, and chipping them up to a size that is used as a mulch or as a top dressing. You can, any of your trees, limbs that have fallen, you can have those, you can chip those up. You can make your own mulch. If you're just even small, like for pots, you can get mulch and create a good high quality mulch. And I can't think of anything better to accomplish that than a chipper shredder.
Chipper shredders are great, especially if you have a lot of trees on your property and you're constantly pruning your trees. Instead of, like you say, instead of throwing those branches away, chop them, shred them, just add them to the top of your soil, and a 4-inch layer of mulch on your soil. It moderates soil temperature. It inhibits weed production. As it breaks down, it feeds the soil, making it richer. It's amazing, too. If you put 4 inches of mulch or even 4 inches of shredded leaves on your garden surface over the winter, and you go back in the spring, you move it aside, you dig down a few inches, you'll be amazed at the number of earthworms that are saying thank you to you for doing that. And earthworms improve the soil, too.
But that's a sign of it. I mean, I've been doing my garden. I've been doing this for 20, 25 years, and I can go out. I don't have weeds, for one thing, but I can actually go into my soil, even, after it's been watered and have had tomato plants in there. I can still take my hand and kind of move it into the soil because it's porous enough that because of the mulch and all the good ingredients have been added to it to amend it to be able to do that. It takes a while. So a good chipper shredder is a very good start of getting good quality soil going for you.
So let's talk about chipper shredder basics, what people should look for when buying a chipper shredder. I would, of course, recommend buying it from a known entity, some company that you've heard of before that has produced lawn and garden equipment, as opposed to going online and seeing a bunch of names you don't know. But when you're looking at the specs of a chipper shredder, what are the specs you should pay attention to?
Well, the big one I look at is what's driving your chipper, what's driving the shredder parts. There's usually two different entities there that are combined. And one is a wheel, typically, that has a cutter blade, probably about 4 inches long, but it's a very hard steel, probably two of them on this, what I call a wheel. And then the other part is on the other side of it has a bunch of little like edger blades that are on small half-inch shafts that spin around, and they will shred leaves. But the chipper part is very important because that wheel that you have on there that's holding those blades, you want that to have some weight. Because when they have that weight on there, that's what's going to pull the limb in and chop it up. If you notice, if you have somebody in your neighborhood who's been around and you'll hear that whirring sound that's going on, they have this huge flywheel that's turning that. That's the chipper, and it has some pretty good-sized blades in there that can eat up like a 9-inch limb or something like that. But you can get that same technology as a gardener for your smaller chipper shredder. And I usually recommend about a 40-pound flywheel will be just about a good place to start. And a lot of people, you have to look in to see if that entity exists on what you're going to buy. And you're not going to get it in your cheaper versions, like you say. You'll get something that's labeled a chipper shredder, but you're talking about things that I've been there. And believe me, I've had things that have turned my fingernails black and blue because I'm trying to force a limb through there like I've got a baseball bat hitting against a steel post. It just rattles your hand. So you want to get something that's got a big flywheel, 40 pounds plus, and it'll help suck those limbs in through with very little effort, and grind up a hardwood versus a softer wood. Does a great job.
What size diameter branch can a 40-pound flywheel handle?
Well, depending on what you've got, usually I'm going to say 3-inch.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases, it's 4-inch. I think on our BCS, you can take a 4-inch limb on there. But what's nice is you can take a good 3-4-inch limb, shove it down into the chipper shredder, and I usually get it to where it is to the point where now you're having the branches which would have leaves or smaller limbs, and then when it gets to that point, you can take it out and then pick it up and put it over into your shredder, and then that shredder will go in and take care of the rest of the stuff, the smaller limbs. If there's leaves on there, it'll take care of that as well, and it just turns it into a finer mulch. And a good chipper shredder, it will actually have plates where that mulch exits through, after it's been chipped, through a grid. And you can put in whatever size you want in there to make those pieces what size you want. Or if you're just doing corn stalks and you just want to reduce, like you grew corn, now you've got to get rid of these stalks when you don't want to throw it in your green waste. Well, you can shred that down. Well, I take that grid out just to beat them up to go, so I can actually work it back in there. But they do have grids that you can install, and it can make that mulch whatever size you want. It's actually a nice feature, and that's what's pertinent in getting the good soil and mulch that you want for your gardens.
You brought up a very good point there, and the fact that we've been talking about, chipping and shredding tree limbs, but for your vegetable waste in your garden, your corn stalks, or even your tomato branches, you could put those through a chipper shredder, probably the shredder section.
I take all my grape. I've got these runners off of my grape. I have a fence it's a 300-foot fence that goes alongside of my yard, and I put it all into grapes, and it's all table grapes. So, you know how grapes are one of those plants where you can literally watch it grow. So you've got these runners that are, 10, 15 feet long. And I'll just cut those off in the fall, and I'll bring those over and get rid of all of that. And you have to make sure when you're using your chipper shredder, by the way, if you're doing this, because if you put a bunch of these grapevines that you're sticking in your shredder, it's like sucking spaghetti into your mouth where the spaghetti starts spinning around and flipping and everything, except this is like a whip. So you got to have eye protection, hearing protection, long sleeves, leather gloves, so that you don't get smacked. And it gets rid of a lot of stuff you just never thought of before. All your fruit tree trimmings, when you go and prune trees in the winter to get things ready for your peach trees and apricot trees, all those trimmings you can put through a chipper shredder too. And what you have in piles there will reduce it, at least 12 to 1 or more. It's amazing what comes out after you do that.
I would like to reinforce your safety comments, because anybody who's ever owned a chipper shredder and attempted to throw in some smaller but long branches, like grape branches, for example, yes, they will whip at you because of the friction, the sucking action of the shredder that just basically tries to suck it all in. And in the meantime, you've lost hold of those branches and they start whipping around.
Oh, yeah, you just let it go. I mean, it just starts going, shoo, shoo, shoo. It's like I've got a bunch of whips around. So, yeah, you just want to protect yourself. I would say protect yourself like you're going to go into a beehive. You don't have to have that big beehive helmet on, but, have eyeglasses on, a helmet or a hat or something. I wear headphones for my ears just for the noise and all that it deals with. So I protect myself quite well when I go out there.
Well, and if you please do wear gloves and take off any jewelry or wristwatches you might have as well.
Oh yeah, keep track of your pruning shears too.
Oh, God, yes. Yeah, don't keep your eyeglasses in your top breast pocket.
Yeah.
It's follow all safety instructions when you get a chipper shredder. So, all right. So safety is paramount. The cost of a chipper shredder is not cheap, but I'd rather see people invest in a chipper shredder than a rototiller. More and more research coming out about rototilling soil is that it does the soil no good at all. You're better off doing no tilling whatsoever. And more farmers are going that route as well. So take that money that you might want to spend on a rototiller and put it into a chipper shredder. What is the price range for a decent chipper shredder?
Well, they start at about I'm going to say about $799 as entry level if you get a Bearcat, and you're in the 2-inch to 3-inch chipper shredder range. I recommend. I mean, that's light use, and that's a good starter, and certainly will do the job, but it doesn't take care of what the next level is which is about $1,200, a little over $1,200, $1,269, and it will take on a 3-inch limb and do everything I've been talking about. And it's something that, I've had my chipper shredder for years. It's got to be 25 years plus. And there's, you just have to maintain it, but it's one of those most useful things when you need it. And then you don't have to deal with a pile of trimmings and try to get it to the garbage can or get it out of your yard onto the curb if they still do that where you live, or have to haul it off somewhere. No, you can take that and make it into a very useful product that'll benefit your own garden. So, yeah, so anyway, it starts about $800, and you can go up to, in the 2 to 3 inch up to a little over $2,000. If you go into 4-inch and higher, then all of a sudden you get into the $3,000 range.
Talk a little bit about the different brands that are available. You mentioned Bearcat. I own a BCS, and they are both high-quality chipper shredders.
Oh, BCS is an excellent chipper shredder. That's what I have. Now, BCS America site, if anybody wants to go into it, that is a great site just to visually see what a chipper shredder can do for you and your garden. I mean, it's amazing. The gentleman does the video in that. He incorporates a lot of stuff in the mulch and cardboard, for instance. He's taken cardboard, newspaper, and then his leaves and limbs and everything else that's been debris that normally you would throw in a trash can or you have to get rid of it somehow. So, or leave it in a big pile and let rodents get in there and habitate it healthy. But the best way is run it through a chipper shredder. But that's a very good video. If you can just go into that site, BCS America, a very good quality chipper shredder. Bearcat is very good. We also sell DR, which is Country Homes products. They offer very good chipper shredders. We have accessibility for Bearcat locally. So if people want something that they can actually come in and buy it locally, I can get that rapidly. If I have to get DR in, that takes usually 7 to 10 days. And BCS takes me about 5 days to get their stuff. So, but those are 3 of the top names that are out there that I would recommend.
When one goes online and sees the array of chipper shredders, they're going to, I think, see the majority of them, unfortunately, are electric powered. I don't know if unfortunately is the right word or not, but it just seems to me that a gas powered chipper shredder has more power than something that's powered by 110 volt electric.
We used to sell the electric. This was some years ago. And in Davis, there was a viable means because most of the gardens there are, relatively small, I would consider. And they were using it for table scraps and clippings and leaves and stuff like that. And they worked well, but the problem with it is you had to fit it in a slot to get it to go down into a chipper shredder contraption. And it's about the orifice. Oh, that slot I'm talking about was the size of about medium-sized book. It was only like 2.5 inches wide, and maybe 12 inches long. And it was like, so now you're trying to squish things down through this slot to get it in there to work. I've improved it quite a bit better, but I know with gas-powered, a lot of my problems are if you get something in there or you get too much in there and it starts to plug up, and then you need to stop it. Gas power, you can shut the engine off, but if you cause that thing to run and not be, actually turning over, you can cook those motors pretty easily. And we found that there was not a substantial amount of electric failures, but it's like an electric lawnmower. If you use an electric lawnmower and you're out there trying to cut grass that's 12 inches tall, you're slowing that motor down a lot. Those motors overheat, and because you're plugged into the grid, it's just endless energy, and those motors are overheat. And so I don't give them a real thumbs up on quality. I know electric products have really kind of taken over the imagination of most people out there as far as tools and that, but I don't think this is money well spent, at least at this point.
And with chipper shredders, you want to follow all the instructions in the booklet that it comes with. And you mentioned a problem that all chipper shredders have, be they electric or gas, is they can sometimes jam up. And yes, very important to turn that motor off as soon as you sense that it is not chipping or shredding.
Yeah, you'll lose a belt or you'll cook a motor is what will happen if it's electric. But the belt, for your, because if you lose the belt, now you're done. Now you got to go get a belt, which, we stock belts for what we sell and we have access to them fairly rapidly, but you're done for the day. You just don't go down to a hardware store or a auto parts store and buy another belt. That's just not going to happen. So it's, you got to stop those things relatively quickly.
All right. Chipper shredder, great investment for making your own mulch from not only tree branches, but your garden, your grapevines, your corn stalks, any sort of woody material can become your mulch in your garden.
Oh, yeah. It's tremendous, yeah. What it is, I would recommend that. I agree with you about the rototiller and the chipper shredder. I would spend the money on the chipper shredder first, and then if you need a rototiller. I use a rototiller, but I've got a pretty good sized piece of ground, but it's not used as much as I did before. I don't need to do that as much.
We've been talking with Brad Gay from JB's Power Equipment in Davis. Chipper shredders, every gardener should own one. Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, Fred. Good talking to you.
We're talking with Brad Gay from JB's Power Equipment in Davis. And if you're a gardener, every fall, if you have leaves or if your neighbors have trees with leaves, those leaves make an excellent mulch. They can improve your garden soil. And it's pretty easy to improve your soil if you don't have a winter garden. When those leaves fall in October, November, December, you grind them up, you put them on your garden bed, stack it up as tall as you want, 4 inches, 8 inches, 12 inches. And then the following spring, you've got improved soil. No question about it. The problem is, all right, how do you gather up those leaves? How do you grind them up? Now, in the past, what I've done is, my neighbor loves me with a 60-foot pin oak tree, but I want those leaves. So I'll go over there, rake her leaves, put them in a metal 30-gallon trash can, stick my string trimmer down into that metal trash can, and sort of whip it around and grind up those leaves. It does a okay job, but not really a great job of making all those leaves smaller. There's something on the market that if you want to do that too, it makes it a heck of a lot easier. We're talking with Brad Gay from JB's Power Equipment in Davis. And Brad, I like the idea of having a tool that sucks up the leaves and grinds them, and then I can just dump it onto the garden bed. That sounds pretty darn easy. What are those instruments of destruction?
Well, yeah, it's a great tool. It's a conversion of your handheld blower is what it amounts to, and they've gone in and adapted the front of the blower that brings in the air for the blower to blow out the pipe to blow your leaves. Well, they put a tube on that, so now it becomes a vacuum, and the blower exit, which you would be blowing, has a curved tube to it that attaches a bag. Before you put that tube on, you'll look on the inside of that blower. There are little metal shredder, something you wouldn't want to touch if it was running.
Thank you.
That way. It is, and you can't run it with that tube off. So that's a very strong safety feature. But it's a metal like it can be like a mower blade, but a real small version of it. That's a shredder. So now you can go in and suck up all the leaves in these areas, and it's that shredder device and puts it in your bag. And it's a 12-to-1 ratio reduction. So in areas like under shrubs that you've got that you can't get to as easily, or let's say you're around a pool and you're in corners where leaves have collected, And in my case, I have sycamore leaves. Well, sycamore leaves are good 4 inches across and more. So now you got to reduce that to be able to use it. So by using this, by sucking the debris up and going through that shredder, it reduces that down. And most of the pieces are about less than the size of a dime. And it's just pretty good considering how big that leaf was when you got it there.
Yeah, that's great.
Also, I've been very satisfied with it. You save 2 steps. You just take it out and dump it, and you can use it right then as mulch. You don't have to go shred it up. I live in a house that has 2 huge sycamore trees, and before I had a chipper shredder or I had a vac and sack or a shredder vac, I had tarps that I would haul to my backyard and put them on my garden, and I'd have piles back there. Well, it reduced really well, but sycamore leaves a pretty good sized leaf. So in the spring, I'd get out there, get ready to do it, and I'd still be part of the pile there. And there's at the bottom of the pile, there's still some of those leaves in their original configuration. Wow, since I've started doing the chipping and the shredding and reducing that and then putting it out in the garden, no, it's done. It's mulch. It's ready to use right then. If I was going to rototill, I'd rototill it right in. And there's no big piles anymore. So, but that vacuum sack, I tell you, Fred, that's a great tool to have.
Yeah, I noticed on your website, jbspower.com, that the Echo people have one called a shredding vac. And actually, it's 3 units in one because it's a blower, like a typical leaf blower. It's a vacuum, and it's a shredder mulcher.
Yeah, it is. That's the whole thing. And it's got a nice bag on it so that when in the bag, it's got a strap that goes over your shoulder. So it's like you're carrying it has a rear handle to it. So you can, usually you have an upper handle on a blower, a handheld blower. Well, this actually has a rear handle so you can hold it and the upper handle. So you got 2 hands on there. And then you have a strap that's on the bag that you put over. It'd be like a backpack kind of, you sling it over your back. So then you power the leaves into that bag. Well, when that bag starts getting heavy, it's usually that's about time for you to go dump it. So, and it's I'm going to say it's just about a 30-gallon, like plastic bag container. Not quite that, but it's a good amount that you can pick up and get rid of all that debris in a timely fashion. So you can go do other things in your garden.
Now, we're talking here about the Echo Shred and Vac, but I imagine there's other manufacturers with very similar items.
Yes. Yeah, there is. I still has one. Theirs is the same idea. We also sell that. It is it's competitively priced. The same thing. There's no difference. Everybody's producing something like that. But both of these companies are top of the line, and they're run by people that if you do have a problem with this piece of equipment, you've got some place to go to which is a good thing to fall back on. That's why I'm in business. Buy the best and cry only once. You spend a little bit, you spend a little bit more, but you just don't have the problem.
The Echo unit we're talking about, and I imagine the Still unit as well, they're both 2-stroke gas engines, correct?
That's correct. Wear a dust mask when you're doing this, too.
Yeah, we got plenty of masks these days.
Well, yeah, everybody has access to those for some reason.
Yes. All right. Garden mulch, I've preached it for years. It's one of the best things to add to your garden, and you don't have to till it in. You can just lay it on top. You can plant around it. Garden mulch has numerous benefits. It blocks weed seeds from sunlight so they don't germinate. It promotes better water retention. It provides needed nutrients as it decomposes. It moderates soil temperatures as well. Mulch is wonderful. Why not make it yourself from the things that are around you that are falling, be it tree branches or leaves? I think a shred and vac is the way to go for just about every gardener.
I've been using it for about 3 years now, but you know what? I'm so glad that I got that. I've got a number of friends that have similar landscapes, and they have them, and they use them quite a bit themselves too. And it's really a nice, handy tool.
There you go.
And if you need a blower, you got a blower too. So if you want to just blow things around, get it into a pile, and then put the bag on there and the other hose, and now you can shred everything up out of your pile. So It's a 2-in-1, 3-in-1 device.
Well, I thank you, and my next door neighbor with the 60-foot tall pin oak tree thanks you as well with this information about the shred and vac. It like I say, if you're going to have one garden tool that might set you back a couple $100, this would be the one to have to make your own mulch and improve your soil. We've been talking with Brad Gay from JB's Power Equipment in Davis, California. Brad, thanks so much.
Fred, it's always a pleasure talking to you.